Hi everybody. So this week we are learning a little bit more about your cascading style sheets. We're going to be looking at using your different selectors. So we've got our ID selectors and our class selectors. And I'm also going to show you another two ways that you can implement a style sheet into your HTML. So last week we looked at how we can use style sheets to select a particular HTML element on your page. That's called the element selector. If you use the element selector, so it would change all of the paragraphs to be matching, all of the heading ones, all of the heading twos, and so on. So what happens if we want to just have one particular paragraph that's set to a different style or set to a different color or something like that, okay? So this is where we introduce these other two selectors for you. You've got your ID selector. Now it can be used and applied to just one HTML section, and then our class selector can be applied to more than one HTML section. So I'm going to talk you through this, but also show you some examples while we go, okay? So if I just come into this page, the ID selector always starts with a hashtag symbol, okay? And it will only affect the HTML element where the ID attribute matches the text following the hashtag symbol, okay? So if you look down here, this is how the ID would appear in a CSS file. You can call it whatever you want, all right? So this case it's hashtag offer, so you might use it if you had a special offer on something and you want to highlight that on your web page. So for this one, I've made the font weight is bold, the font size, I've changed it to 20. And then in the actual HTML file, what you do is you take your paragraph tag and all you do is you stick in ID equals offer in inverted commas. Okay, so it must match up with whatever you've called it there. Okay, and then it changes your paragraph. So what I've done is I've created a very simple sort of demonstration HTML page. You'll see it's got a few different H1, H2, and a couple of paragraphs and things in it. I've already added in my link into the HTML document that takes me to this cascading style sheet, okay? So in my cascading style sheet, I've got my elements for H1, H2, paragraph, and my body are all sort of changed and set up at the moment. So the actual web page then, if I open this up, looks like that. Okay, you can see here, this is a heading 1 that's been applied on here. It's red, it's size 48, it's been set to Arial, and it's center aligned. We've got two subheadings using the H2 with the dark orange colouring, size 24, and they're using the font family 40. And then we've got our paragraphs, okay, which again are Arial, dark red, aligned to the left, and they're at the moment the font size 16. And the body background colour is linen. So what I'm going to do then is, if I put back on your different pages here, I'm going to add in this CSS ID selector into here, okay? So it doesn't matter where it goes on your page. Again, it can go at the top, it can go at the bottom, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to use the same exactly as we've got in here. Hashtag offer, it's a curly bracket again. And then we're going to change this one, so it's font weight is bold. Remember to separate with a semicolon. And font size is 20. Okay, so that's my ID selector added into my style sheet. Now all I need to do is to pick an element that I'm going to apply that ID to. So what I could do then is pick a heading if I wanted. I could have the paragraphs down here if I want, or whatever. Remember, with an ID, you can only apply it to one element. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to stick it in here. So in the actual paragraph tag itself, if you click in there and just put a space, okay, and then just type in ID equals, and then the name of your ID, which in this case is offer, and put that into inverted commas, okay? So now when I save this page here, and sorry, I didn't save my CSS, make sure you save both the pages. If I open up my web page now, and I'm going to refresh this, and you'll see that my paragraph has now been changed so that it is matching up with the style sheet here, okay? The font weight is now bold, and the font size is increased to size 20. The other elements that are set up in my paragraph declarations here still remain the same. So my font family is still Arial, my color is dark red, my text align is left, okay? The only thing that's been overwritten is the font size, okay? It's now been changed to 20. So whatever you put in your ID selector will overwrite whatever is in the paragraph selectors if it's, if they do match, okay? So like for example, font size is here. This has obviously got font weight in it as well, which wasn't put in here. So it's also going to appear. The ID selector is going to overwrite whatever is in your other one. Okay, so that's your ID selector. Now the class selector works in exactly the same way. Difference being is when you put it into the CSS file, you use a full stop. Okay, it's got a dot in front of it instead of the hashtag, but it works in exactly the same way. And remember that you can also apply it to a number of different elements on your page. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to add in my class selector here. And again, I'm just going to stick with the one that's actually in the example there. I'm just going to have it centered, text align. I'm going to set that to center. Okay, again, remember to save my style sheet. And in here, I'm going to apply this one and we'll put it into your, I'll put it into my heading 2 because it's at the moment, if I go back to the page here, you see my heading 2 isn't actually centered. Okay, so if I change it to that first heading 2, we should find that it'll come in. So all I need to do in here is again click into the tag there, and I'm going to put class equals and then centered. Okay, saving that, and then if I refresh my page, you'll see that that's also now been centered. Remember, I can also add this into any of my other paragraphs as well. So for example, if I pick it down into this one, and I can add in a class element into here as well, and it will center it. So it's quite handy because you can apply it to more than one element for the class ID. Save that and refresh. Sorry, did that go there? Yeah, save that, refresh my page. There we go, and it's centered as well. Okay, so those are your different selector elements, selectors, sorry, that you can apply to your pages. Quite handy for whenever you want specific bits of text to be added in there. Okay, so I've got an example there. I'm going to get you to work through yourself. So just go and try, just follow the examples straight on, as they say. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, you'll find that the original rules for the elements are overwritten by the rules applied to the ID and the class selectors. Okay. So looking at this one here, where you've got your paragraph set with your font family Arial, colors dark red, text align is left, font size is 16, but the actual ID in this one has changed the font size to 24, so it overwrites this font size here. The color is now tomato, so it's going to overwrite that dark red, and text align is now center. But you will find it is still in Arial because my ID has not changed the font family. Okay, so that's quite an important piece of information there as well. So we've got a few more bits and pieces there. I'm just going to sort of talk about that. That's examples there. The other thing I want to mention is that you can group your style, your CSS selectors, okay? So if you've got elements that have the same declarations, they have to be exactly the same, okay? Yeah, then you can group your selectors. This allows you to make your code much more efficient because it minimizes the amount of writing that you've actually got on your page, okay? So if you look here, I've got H1, text align center, color is green. H2 is set up exactly the same, okay? It's got text align center, color is green. So what we can do with those two selectors there is we can actually put them in as H1, comma, H2, okay? And then you've got your text align center, color green, okay? Comments should be added into your pages as well. So to add in to let us know what it is that you're actually doing. So it could be that you're setting up the style of paragraph text, you're setting up your text style, you're setting up color schemes and so on. Okay, to add in a comment into a CSS page, it's a / star, write in whatever it is that you want to put in, and then you finish with a star / So if I come into the style sheet here, I'm going to add in a comment there. So / star, setting up heading styles, and then finish with the star / Okay, and you'll see that it's changed green, it's gone into a comment, okay? And then further down here, I could have another one going in with setting up paragraph styles. Okay, it's just to remind you what it is that you're actually doing and what this is about. And when it comes to making more complicated pages, it's much easier to actually recognize it and see it. Okay, so for this one, we have inserted our style sheet into the web page using the external style sheet. Okay, our style sheet is saved in an external file, and we have added the link into it, which is what I showed you how to do last week. Remember, this code here stays exactly the same. The only thing it changes is the name of the style sheet. So it changes depending on what you've called your style sheet. But there are other ways of inserting style sheets into your HTML pages. Okay, the external style sheet is the one that I would prefer you to use. It's much easier for updating and making changes to your web pages. But you can use these other two as well, just if you have a specific thing that you want to highlight or something. Okay. So we've got an internal style sheet. Now, our internal style sheet might be used if there's a single page that you want to have a unique style, for example. So say you have got a home page that you want it to stand out from your other pages. Then what you could do is apply this internal style sheet to your home page and maybe have a different background color, have a different, size of heading, whatever it is that you want, okay? It allows it to stand out. So to set up an internal style sheet, we actually place it within the head elements, okay? Doesn't matter if it goes at the top of the head, after the title, after the link there, it really doesn't matter, okay? So I'm just gonna add it in there. Now to put in an internal style sheet, we use the element style, okay, the tag style there. And then after that, we just type in, same as you would do in your external style sheet, you put in whatever it is, selector that you want to change, and then what your declaration is, okay? So for this one, I'm just going to type in body. Now, my body already is actually colored linen, so I'm going to change this to light green. Okay, I think that works anyway. And I'm going to put in my H1 heading into there. At the moment, my colour for that one is slightly different, so we'll just go with a dark green. I'll text a line for this one as well, because I know my heading there is, sorry, what's that, it's left, because I know it's in the centre at the moment. And I'm going to change my font size, if I make it much, much bigger. We'll go with 80, okay, just so it makes it a bit more obvious. All right, so there's my style sheet set up there. Remember to close off your style tag, okay. Now, personally, I like to space things out a little bit more, just to make it a bit more obvious that you've got your style element set in there, okay, so it's just a bit more blocked together. If I save the page there, and I'm going to go and I'm going to refresh this one again, you'll see now it's totally changed it, okay? I've got my body has now become this light green color, my heading's gone dark green, and it's been aligned left, and it's increased the size of it to 80, okay? So what you'll find then is the style sheet, the internal style sheet here, has overwritten whatever I've got set up for these elements in the external style sheet, okay? So this is why they're called cascading style sheets, all right? It's the level of authority, if you like. One's more important than the other. The other style sheet I'm going to show you is called an inline style. Now, inline styles, we don't like to use these very often because they'll lose many of the advantages of a style sheet, because you have to apply each of the style attributes within the elements that you want to change. So if I wanted to add in an element to change my H1, elements to change my paragraphs, I would have to add it into each of these elements on the page, okay? Which defeats the purpose of having your external style sheet, because you want to be able to just go and make one change and have it applied to all your pages. If you imagine you have a website that's got 50 pages on it and you've applied your styles just to the H1 element in each of those pages, you would have to go in and actually change it, okay? So that's why it's really important to use an external style sheet rather than the inline ones. But what I'm going to do here then is I'm going to set my inline style within here. So you just put it into the tag again. Now I'm specifically choosing the H1 to show you what happens when we know that we've got H1 set up here as well. And we know that we've got H1 set up in the external style sheet, okay? So it's just H1 style equals, and then inside inverted commas, I'm going to change this one to color blue, and we're going to put font size, make it slightly smaller this time, so I'll go 45 px. Okay, remember inverted commas, otherwise it won't work, okay? And save it, Now I'm going to go back to my page again and refresh. Okay, and you can see that it's changed the heading there. So our order of hierarchy as far as your style sheets are concerned, the inline style, okay, is the most important. It will overrule both the internal style and the external style sheet, okay? So whatever you put in the style element, in the actual element you're changing there, will overwrite this one, and it will overwrite the external, okay? Now, again, it's just the actual declarations, the elements that you've got changed in here, sorry, the attributes that you've got changed in here. So I've changed color blue, I've changed the font size. My text align is still going to be left because I've set that here, okay? And if I come onto this one here, my font family is still Arial because that's what I've changed there. I haven't changed that in either of these other styles. So it's still going to be set to Arial. Okay, so your inline style is the most important. It will overrule your internal and external style sheets. But the disadvantage of using an inline style is if you have only if you've only used inline styles on your website, you have to go and apply the differences to each element each time you want to change it. Okay, if you're using an external style sheet, then all you have to do is make those changes once and it'll apply it to all of your H1s, your H2s, and so on. So only ever use inline style if you want a particular piece of the HTML page to be changed, okay? So it might be like if you've got special offer on something and you want that particular paragraph or that particular heading to stand out, then use your inline style for that. Your internal style sheet, so that's the one that's up within the head element, can be applied if you maybe want a whole page to be different. I'd recommend you do that one for that. Okay. So internal style sheet contained within the head section. Second most important, it will overrule this external style sheet. Okay. So we've got an example there. Color of the page below will be set to whatever color has been specified in the external style sheet in this one, okay? So we've got our link to our style sheet called My Style there, okay? So what color page will we have? Depends what's in the style sheet, okay? If we add in an internal style sheet, okay, within the head section, it's now going to overrule what's in the external style sheet. And in this case, it's going to color the body background to blue, okay? So it doesn't matter what color is in this external style sheet, the background color will now be set to blue for this page, okay? And then lastly, if we look at the inline style, we've put in here within our body, we've now got body style, background color red. So that means that the page is now going to be red in the background because it's going to have overwritten this rule, which has in turn overwritten this rule. I hope that makes sense to you. Go and have a bit of a play around with your example pages. Try adding in some inline styles, some internal style sheets, and also obviously looking back at your ID and your class styles. And then what I would like you to do is to go into your own website. I'd like you to add in an ID selector and at least one class selector onto your website that can be applied to different web pages. I just want to make sure you know how to use them and how to create them. I want you to use an internal style sheet, perhaps on your homepage of your website. And then I'd like you to see you use an inline style sheet on at least 2 elements on one of your web pages, okay, just to make them maybe stand out that little bit more, okay? Once you've done all that, upload evidence of your work. So again, screenshots of both the actual HTML pages, your result of your page. So if you open it up in a browser, do a screenshot of that, and then also give me evidence of your HTML and your Cascade and Style Sheets pages. Okay, I hope that's useful for you. See you next week.